My name is David Estes. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Morpheus Data, and we're going to talk a little bit about our cloud cost management and moving beyond that into discovery and things like that. So often when we start talking about the self-service automation of Morpheus and the orchestration, there's a lot of things you've seen throughout this where everything is related to self-service. Costing is as well, and service discovery. So one of the things Morpheus is able to do, not just from a self-service provisioning perspective, is it's also able to discover everything in your environments. We kind of talked about if you go into infrastructure clouds and you add that cloud, let's grab AWS. You can see here, we actually can see a cost history, a cost trend. We also can go in and see all the discovered VMs, all the discovered subnets, EBS volumes, things like that. What's cool about this is we can also configure this, and I believe we have one set up somewhere here, but I'll double check. It might not be set up here. You can actually point this to a costing report. So if you've got like an AWS Cur billing file or your Azure billing file, this will actually ingest that nightly and actually correlate all that data, which is a lot of data, to the resources that Morpheus has discovered via the other AWS APIs. For example, you look at a storage cost for an ABS volume on the AWS billing file, it doesn't really associate which VM that was related to. Morpheus is able to do that via its discovery engine. So this is where costing and that discovery blend really well, because you can also then recognize which tenant or which user is associated with that cost. So we do all this for both the public cloud costing, and we allow you to configure the on-prem costing. So if you go to administration plans and prices, you can actually see here if I scope to say, let's go to VMware. Oops. You can see we've created these plans or quote unquote t-shirt sizes, right? I could add new ones here. So I could say, hey, I want a new service plan I'm going to build. I pick VMware as the technology, right? I'm going to do a VMware one. I can say, hey, I want to associate a storage cost or a storage size, or allow them to customize their storage, an associated memory, or allow them to customize it on the fly. Then what happens is you assign price sets, and those are just groupings of prices. So it's basically a complex price table you can build out where you can say, hey, I want to build, a price for memory and CPU cost, or maybe I want to charge per megabyte of memory to allocate, or cores and disk. And your disks, you can even scope to a volume type. So if you want to charge differently for different storage types, you can also associate these to specific data stores as well. You can also, and this is actually newer, associate software service costs. So if you've got some software service costs, maybe you have a backup plan or something you want to represent to the end customer, you can actually put that into your price tables, and those get represented in the billing data. That's our on-prem costing. We also ingest, we talked about those price tables for Amazon, Azure. We ingest the standard price tables. So when you get your estimated, you'll see that. Or if we have the ELA available based on your configuration, we'll provide that as well. There's two types of things with costing and discovery in Morpheus. There's the estimated when you're provisioning, where we're giving you, it's probably going to cost this much. And then there's this is actually how much it costs. What we do is there's two-phased approach to that. One is when you're talking about VMware or your on-prems, your Nutanix, or your OpenStack, is we actually will put that, I believe it's under activity, we'll track, oh, where'd it go? There we go. We will actually track the usage data from those sync systems. So if you've turned a VM on or turned it off in vCenter and you want to track the power state that adjusts your costs, it's automatically going to track a metered record in here. So Morpheus is also acting for your on-prem essentially as a source of truth for your metering. It's telling you what's on, what's off, how much you've allocated. It also does this for the public clouds, but that's really just for an estimate. Once you start turning on the public cloud costing mode, they all get generalized into basically monthly roll-up invoices. You can actually go in here and actually scope what you want to look at. So I can say, I want to look at June. I'm going to skip, I'm going to actually pick a cloud maybe. AWS. And you can see here, it's actually representing an invoice for every resource that's discovered in your bill at night. Or I could change this to vCenter maybe, or VMware, what do we call it? VMware Demo Cluster H5. You can see it's representing the server types. And what's cool is when you drill into these, let's go back to AWS for you. Some of these are just general load balancers. You got some snapshots. Let's see if I have Elastic. I have a really good example normally. Yeah, here's an Elastic. Well, that's not Elastic IP, but let me find one. Maybe we have a server. Yeah, here you go. So we have a server here. You can actually drill into these invoices. These we have a highly volatile demo environment. So things are not on for very often. So you'll actually see a month-to-date price. You'll see a projected price. This has since been provisioned and removed. So its estimated price for the month is obviously going to stay stationary. You can also take these invoices and we roll them up to the cloud, the group, the user, and the tenant. So you've got a cloud. You can see an estimated running price right there, month to date, and a projected.
For your customers who are service providers, are they using this for their invoicing back to the customers, or do they usually use this
That's a great question.
Guide and then have their
normally used as a guide?
Okay.
We have a couple who are looking to start moving this into that exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually a big focus of the past few years has been the accuracy of it, making sure it's very accurate. We have one customer who has to represent Canadian dollar and US dollar on the same screen. So we have to do currency conversion so we can represent those together. So it gets really complicated when you start looking at it from a multi-region perspective as well.
Sorry, if you're done answering.
Go ahead.
So do you support Bitcoin as well?
Actually, so no. We do actually do have a roadmap item request for someone to support dynamic or custom currencies, non-standard currencies. So in essence, yes, you could. But that's more for like if you've got credits inside of an enterprise and you want to allocate those credits, you want to use that as the type of currency.
So with all of this information on the costing side of things, particularly with service providers, is this all API addressable to be able to let you run the models and maybe pull those out and put them in a place where we as a service provider could present them to our end users or put them into a system where we then run analytics based on the comparisons and whatnot?
Yep, we provide both an invoices API, which you can see there, and a billing usage metering API. So if you're wanting to just use our metering and dump that into your billing system, which MSPs often do because we had that first, you have access to that. It actually gives you the granular info as to what cost you. So if the overall cost of a usage record is $5, we'll say 10% of it was, or $10, $1 was memory, $2 was core, that kind of thing. And there is a lot of reporting. The other thing that leverages this even more is because we have all this discovery technology, we're pulling like we talked about, we can also provide recommendations. So we can give you right sizing recommendations, show you estimated costs, effect that's going to have. We actually are getting ready to release pluggable guidance recommendations via our plugin engine. So you can tie into third-party services for this as well if you want to in the future. And not only that, you can act on these, not just get the recommendation, but you can say, hey, there's the before, there's the after, and then I can execute that. And there is a lot on costing, and I'm running down to 3 minutes.
I think in a couple minutes that we have left, I think where we're excited about taking this, in addition to that pluggable model for guidance, it goes well beyond costing, right? What you've seen, I think, over the last couple hours, we've essentially normalized hybrid IT in a very consistent way, independent of underpinning technology type across automation tools, clouds, load balancers, networks, et cetera. Where we're excited about taking this is providing access to that normalized view in a broader way. So being able to map your dependencies between resources and clusters and applications, being able to take guidance from your monitoring tools, your AIOps tools, tie those into automation frameworks. So be that central hub, again, for hybrid cloud environments where there are a lot of attempts to bite at this apple from different perspectives, but nobody, we don't think, has really done a good job bringing a framework together to do it end to end in a consistent way in messy, heterogeneous environments. And every big enterprise is a messy, heterogeneous environment.
Yep, and we do have customizable reports and pluggable reports as well. So we recognize that a lot of enterprise and service providers do crazy things with their costing data or set weird buckets. So we do have the ability to completely customize how a report is generated, how the results are stored, and how they're rendered as well.
So obviously you're checking costs and all those kind of things. And say, for example, AWS instances are running and they're generating all of that. You want to, if you find out that it's running and not run, so there isn't much load, they're quiet, 8 hours activity. Can you also automate the shutdown of it?
Yes, yes, we can. That's called power scheduling. There's so much in this, it's hard to show you guys all at the same time. So we actually create recommendations for this as well. We can look at the utilization over time and give you a power schedule recommendation as a power.
Yeah, part of that guidance engine is shut it down, have a power schedule, resize the memory, reconfigure the footprint. So a vast array of guidance recommendations. And what David was mentioning on the plugin is being able to take third-party plugins and expose their own recommendations. And that could be well outside of cost. So it could be compliance. It could be around different monitoring data where they have a recommendation to alleviate some service outage or something else that they found.
Right. So I could, for example, take this schedule and apply this to a server that we've discovered or a managed resource, and it will automatically shut it down and start it up, things like that.